everybody, today I'm going to show you how I make my bone broth in the Instant Pot. This is a very basic bone broth with minimal ingredients. I just want to use what a lot of people have on hand and keep it kind of basic because I like to flavor my broths when I use them in recipes, but I will say where you can make some modifications to make your broth more flavorful if you'd like, or less as we go along. I have my basic ingredients here for my bone broth. So I've got this is a turkey breast bone. You can use a lot of things. I usually like to use legs, but they haven't had any turkey legs at my store, and I don't have, you can also use like a whole roasted chicken or roasted chicken legs, but this is what I have, some from when I cooked a turkey breast. So I've got that here. I've got half of an onion, about 2 carrots chopped up. These are peeled. I happen to buy some that were already peeled, but you can use regular carrots. And some chopped up celery, that's about 2 stalks, a tablespoon of salt, and a teaspoon of pepper. Now you can adjust the salt. I'd probably do at least 2 teaspoons with this because I've got 8 cups of water here that I'm going to use. And then I've got 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. That's optional, but the vinegar helps draw the minerals out of the bone. So I'm going to put that in there. I've made this many times with some fresh herbs, but I wanted to keep it very basic, minimal ingredient to show you today. And this couldn't really be simpler. I'm going to put all our ingredients into the pot. Water. So this is 8 cups of filtered water. Got my salt and my apple cider vinegar. So make sure you got your ring on. Be sure this is set to sealing. And then I have a soup broth button. You can use regular pressure and just set the time, but I have this, and then I had made some soup in here, so I need to adjust this up to 2 hours. I've always done this for 2 hours. I've seen that's kind of the spot for bone broth. You could do more. You could do 2.5 to 3 as well. I think I've seen people do 4. But I like to do 2 because of course it's less time. So that is going. There it goes. So while that is cooking, it's got 2 hours under pressure. It's coming up to pressure right now as we're waiting for it. It will take probably about 30 minutes or so, maybe a little less. I'll keep track of the time to see how long it takes to come up to pressure. So, and then it's going to be under pressure for 2 hours, and then I just let it natural release, which can take quite some time because it's got a lot of liquid in there. So that could take about 30 to 45 minutes. We'll count that time too when we get there. So we're gonna let that broth do its thing for the next couple of hours. So why do I like bone broth? Besides that it's convenient for recipes or if you want to make soup, bone broth has some health benefits that can benefit some of those of us with IBD or other digestive issues, and also just people in general for gut health. And I will also, after I go through some of the benefits, go through why it might not work for some people. So stay tuned for that. But let's start with the benefits. Bone broth is rich in collagen and gelatin. Those can help seal that irritated gut lining and aid in your digestion. So I like it for that. It's very soothing. It's got lots of minerals in there, and of course that's why it helps when you have a cold. It doesn't cure a cold like the old wives' tale, but it does help those mucous membranes. And so that is why it can be very soothing when we're irritated. So that can also help reduce inflammation, as can the glutamine that occurs in the bone broth. That is an anti-inflammatory. So that can help with the inflammation. So that's another reason why I like to have bone broth and why I will drink it plain a lot of the time. Is just to get that extra support. And bone broth has a lot of minerals in it, so it makes them more easily digestible, especially when we have a more sensitive gut. So it's a good way to get those minerals into our system, and overall supports that gut health, and a healthy gut helps our overall immunity. And so that's going to help with inflammation, with how we feel, and to get some important nutrients in our body, especially when it's hard for us to eat other types of foods. So who might not benefit from bone broth? First, since we're talking about IBD, if you have very, very severe symptoms, bone broth might be too much, too rich, too much minerals. You might not be able to tolerate it. One thing you can do is you can make the bone broth and then water it down if you want to try it. The other thing is also, you can make it even more basic than I'm showing you by just using carrots as the vegetable. You could even just use bones. I don't really tend to like it with just the the bone and water. But carrots add a little extra flavor, and then you get a little benefit from the carrots. But you can leave the onions and the celery out, especially if you are intolerant to onions, which I know a lot of people have trouble with onions. So you can definitely leave those out. If you have intolerances to any of the other ingredients, bone broth might not be a great choice, especially at the beginning. So if you have very severe symptoms, be very cautious with bone broth and using sparingly. Like I said, you can water it down after you've made it, try it that way and just try a very little bit. And if it disagrees with you, put it aside for a while until you're feeling better. The other thing is bone broth is high in histamine. So if you have histamine intolerance, bone broth is not going to work for you. Just saw the pressure thing popped up, so it should be telling me it's under pressure any minute now, and that's only been about 20 minutes, so let's see how long it takes. All right, we are at pressure, so it's got 2 hours here. That took like an extra 5 minutes, so it was about 25 minutes for it to come up to pressure. Why I like using the Instant Pot? Well, of course, it's much faster. 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours. I like the 2 hours. Like I said, that's plenty for bone broth. If you were going to do this in a slow cooker, it's like 8 to 12 hours, which is it's not too bad. Slow cooker is not too bad because you can put it aside. But on the stove, it's also going to take you like over 12 hours or so to get a good bone broth, and it's just very time consuming. This is not too bad, especially I make it on a weekend. I'm doing stuff around the house and the Instant Pot's going, and then I just take care of it. So super easy. Instant Pot is definitely the way to go to make a good bone broth. My 2 hours were up 2 minutes ago, as you can see here. So I'm going to do right now and just let it sit here by itself. So off, and then I'm just going to unplug it. And I will let it natural release until that button pops down. It's been about 40 minutes and this is still up. So I actually am going to go ahead and release the pressure. Probably won't be too much. No, it was almost nothing. So this is ready. Let's take a look. And there is our broth. So it's still very hot. Very hot. So I'm just going to let this continue to cool down before I strain it. I've got my cooled off broth, so I'm just going to take the bones out of here. They broke parts. We'll get the big pieces out before we strain it. Now I'm just going to strain out my vegetables. I have this huge bowl that I use for this. All right. And if you want to use these, you can puree them and use them for to make a gravy with the broth, or use in a soup if you want to try to get more use out of them. If you don't have an immediate usage for it, what I like to do is freeze a lot of it. I'll keep a little bit out to have for myself right away, but broth only lasts about 4 days in the refrigerator. So I like to get it frozen. So I've got these nice handy containers for freezing, and they actually have measures. So this is a 1 cup, but it actually has half cup measure in there. And then this one's half cups. And there's a 4th cup measure in there if you need it. So I'm going to let in here and fill these up, and then we'll see how much is left after I get this all filled up. Make sure when you are filling something, a liquid that you're going to freeze, that you leave room at the top, because liquid expands. In fact, if you freeze in glass, you can actually freeze in glass if you don't fill it up all the way, because it's the expansion that breaks the glass. You don't want to freeze long term in glass, but you can actually freeze in glass short term, because as long as you leave enough room for expansion. Well, that came out perfect. So I saved this jar. I actually have some other broth already in the refrigerator, so I made this with the intention of freezing it. But you can see here, that's 3 cups, 4, 5, 6. So I made 7 cups. We started with 8 cups of water, but of course some of it gets used up as it's cooking. So 7 cups of broth from our 8 cups of water and all the ingredients. These I am going to just cover and freeze. So these I love. I'm so glad I bought these. This has been very convenient, especially for measuring. It's not like 100% exact because it's hard to fill it up exactly right, but it's, those are half cups. Now we know what we have when we need it for a recipe. So let's give it a little taste. That is really good broth. I love turkey broth. It has such a rich flavor from the turkey bones, but chicken is great too. It's such a nicer flavor than anything I've ever bought. So definitely recommend, making broth if you haven't jumped into that yet. Give it a try. It's easy with the Instant Pot. It doesn't take a lot. You don't have to put a ton of ingredients in there. Like I said, you could just use carrots and the bones if you'd like. So do you guys like to make bone broth? Let me know in the comments. What do you like to make it with? Do you use beef bones? I've made it with beef bones. I really prefer chicken or turkey. What about you? Let me know.